This week, so serious that it's mandatory, so unserious that the media get to watch the whole thing. Days running. Sal Capaccio with us on the Westher Hotline. Sal, what were a couple highlights of the day?
Hi, guys.
Hi, Sal.
The highlights of the day would include a couple of really nice plays by the defense. I would say, first of all, though, before that happened, Josh Allen, after 3 interceptions yesterday, was really dialed in early on today. I don't think I saw a ball hit the ground in early 7-on-7 work. I mean, he was really firing it and looked really good. And then later on, though, defense started to kind of get their rhythm back a little bit. There was a pick 6 by Tre'Davious White. It was more really because Khalil Shakir slipped on a slant, and as he reached back, or up I should say, it went off his hand. Trey got it, went down the sidelines, and then later Dane Jackson did a great job to break on a ball. It was like I would say maybe a curl route of some sort for Keon Coleman, and just reached around and really did a great job to knock it out of the receiver's hands. So I'd say veteran DB day of making plays was good, and then on the offensive side, I just really like what I see from Josh with Elijah Moore, and we're starting to see Josh with Josh Palmer heat up a little bit too. Now, you guys know this. I hope listeners know this, that in these contexts of there's really no hitting. These guys, you're going to be very careful if you're going to make a play near the guy. You're going to go on the ball, but you're not really going to take the body. So all that's got to be in context, but I like what I'm starting to see more now from Allen and Palmer the last like today and yesterday.
You can't slip on a route and then lift your hand up. It's like 2 mistakes.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be a tough instinct to deny.
Just let it go.
Just to let it go. But, maybe you volley that thing up in the air, you're in big trouble.
Guy catches everything as it is, so I understand him making an effort.
Right. Probably thought he still had a good shot at it.
Let me get my hand on it, I can make the play.
Well, I want to ask this in a relatively unserious way because I recognize we're still in the minicamp phase on the calendar here, but Palmer and Moore, has what you've seen or heard from talking to players and coaches advanced any of your expectations for either guy or rearranged the pecking order you might expect at receiver?
Not really, because I've always expected Josh Palmer to be kind of in that top 3. To me, it's Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Josh Palmer. And then I have Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore right below them. What's interesting to me, the guy I haven't brought up yet, I think, here I am once again, I may start the Tyrell Shavers hype train again. Like last year, I was all about Tyrell Shavers. This guy just makes really good catches in practice all the time. And again today, there was one where, I'll say this, I don't know what Max Harrison has to do to cover Tyrell Shavers because he, for the second week in a row, he had amazing coverage and Shavers still made a play on him, right? And it's like, I'm sure that this kid, there's a size difference, right? There's the length difference, I should say. And I'm sure Max Harrison is like, guys in college didn't do that when I had coverage on them like that. So I just think there's this group of receivers there that we're going to see. Now, it's not like I haven't seen Curtis Samuel make plays. It's not that I'm ignoring him. But I don't talk about him much because I just think that it's kind of a non-discussion. He's on the team, right? I mean, it would cost quite a bit of money to not have him on the team, and it's not like he's not doing anything. He's out there. He's working. He's making some plays. So I just don't know how to parse it right now because of what I've seen from everyone else. But it has not changed my thought on where they fall because I just don't think that anyone's necessarily so much head and shoulders above because of this everybody eats mentality that they have and everybody's going to be a part of it.
Yeah, I wonder how much, if at all, that will change as we get into camp. And there's just more, it's every day you're there and, is more sort of cutting into are he and Samuel in something of a timeshare? Is one getting favored over the other? That kind of thing. Personnel groupings with the ones, the two, whatever. I think that is going to be interesting to keep an eye on because I think Moore and Samuel are. It wouldn't surprise me if I think both guys are on the team, but it wouldn't surprise me if one's playing time really depends on the other.
Agreed. And I think there's a point about redundancy a little bit with some of these guys. Elijah Moore, Curtis Samuel, not Tyrell Shavers. He's a little bit different, right? Joshua Palmer. There's some redundancy here with some of these guys and what they do. but they're all going to bring a little bit of a different skill set. So they're going to have to kind of figure out exactly what those are. And some are going to be better blockers than others. Some are going to work better in the slot than others. Even Khalil Shakir can kind of fall in that bucket, but I think we all recognize Khalil Shakir is kind of viewed a little bit differently in this wide receiver room. He's, for all intents and purposes, he's really WR1, for this team. Maybe not a traditional guy, but there is a little redundancy there, and I think you have to kind of work through that and where you see these guys as well. I did mention Max Harrison. I don't want to bury any lead, but at the end of practice, the rookie first-round pick, he did come out of team drills, and he was getting looked at by head trainer Nate Bresky, and they were looking at maybe what appeared to be his knee area. He was walking while they were talking, and they were pointing at it. They were walking. He was working something out. And then the horn blew to end practice, so everyone came inside. Normally in that situation, we'd watch out and say, okay, how much more does he do today? Does he go back in? Does he go inside? Well, he didn't do anything, but nobody did, and he went inside because everybody did. But he did walk in with Nate Bresky, the head trainer, so we will have to wait for information on that tomorrow.
Oh, that is a pro move. Like a guy that people are there to watch carefully gets a little bit banged up. That's the end of practice. Let's get on. Let's wrap it up with Hairston. Sal Capaccio on the Wester Hotline. You're back into Tyrell Shavers. Well, why not?
Took you until week 18 to get paid off for that love last year. But the 69-yard touchdown against the Jets.
His only target.
First NFL touch. Only touch all year, right?
His only target, Trubisky, was the quarterback on that play, too. This is one like where I went to that Golden State-Cleveland NBA Finals game with Durant in Cleveland as my first NBA game, and like all the stars on the court. I went down courtside with Mark Kestisher before the game, and it was an incredible game. I'm mad, I can never go to another NBA game.
Right.
Because this is my one. Shavers, credit to him for continuing on with his career and not retiring with a 1 for 69 and a touchdown career stat line. I mean, pretty good. So earlier we were talking about how, as I'm sure you've been, heard and maybe even discussed, the Bills being favored in every game.
A little bit of that, yeah, I did hear.
And you can't find all the individual games on like a FanDuel app yet, but certain websites offer it. And Sal, it's even more that than you might think. Not only favored in all 17, but a 7-point or more favorite in 7 games, 4.5 or more in 13 of their 17 games. Clearly, all this stuff, including make the second round odds, championship game, Super Bowl, is obviously a reflection on them, but also the AFC East. And relatively speaking, I think what this reflects is, objectively, people are just really down on the Bills' competition in this division. Like maybe they're all teams that don't even finish above 500. Who knows? Do you think that maybe that's a little bit much to think that the Dolphins, Patriots, and or Jets are just kind of like, going to roll over this year, to put it one way?
Maybe. I mean, maybe there's a little too much of that when it comes to those teams. But I understand the thought process of, who's challenging the Buffalo Bills right now in the AFC East, right? I mean, the Dolphins have kind of had their chance, been who they are, and I don't even know if people expect them to be any better than what they've been, given some of the changes they've gone through, the health of their quarterback, question marks there. The Jets could be honestly worse. I mean, they won 5 games, but they might be in full rebuild mode as they try to work through, changing over their entire roster, front office, coaching staff, everything. And then the Patriots, I think everybody expects the Patriots to be better. But how much is better for them? What's their ceiling? I mean, really, the ceiling for the next best team in the AFC East might be 8 or 9 wins. And that is truly a gap. Then you throw in who the quarterback is for the Bills versus who the quarterbacks are. Then you throw in the fact that their toughest games on their schedule are really their home games. Like the toughest team they play at home: Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Kansas City. The road schedule isn't that daunting overall. And guys, I think it's also, Mike, you say an indictment on the AFC East. I agree. I think it's kind of an indictment on the AFC overall as the haves and have-nots. That's what you kind of have in the AFC, to be honest with you. Do we ever talk about any other teams other than Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore, and maybe Cincinnati being the class of the AFC. That's it. Like, there's never another team. It's going to take a surprise for another team to be up there.
Right. Houston was getting that sort of attention at this time last year, and now they're not. And, there's reshaping a line there, and there's the loss of Tank Dell and Diggs if you want it. So they might be shuffling a little, but they also maybe just didn't ascend quickly enough, but maybe they still are possible to ascend. But I don't know. But yeah, it has been static here for a few years.
I mean, and even at the bottom of the conference, you have the teams that you'd expect there, or at least kind of trending that way. And Cleveland's there, and maybe the Colts are there, or the Titans are there. So I just think that there's these teams that kind of where they fit in, either at the top or at the bottom. Then there's a whole bunch of middle that can go either way. And maybe the Chargers can jump up, maybe the Broncos can jump up. But those teams are also in the West against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're not in the AFC East. I just think the book is kind of being written here, and it doesn't have to be right on the East teams like you talked about. So for sure, it is striking to think the Bills are favored in every game right now. It is unbelievable they're favored by so much in so many of those games. The only thing left to do for this team is win the Super Bowl. That is really it. Not even get there. The only thing left is to win the Super Bowl. And this is kind of the life we're living. And I got news for everybody. They're not going to stop living it over the next several years. If the season ends the same way this year that it has the last several, and the Bills lose in the playoffs at home to the Chiefs, or if they lose in the playoffs on the road to the Chiefs or home to the Bengals, whatever, or if the Bills win the Super Bowl, guess what? We're having the same conversation here the exact same week next year.
Yes, except if they win, it's going to sound very different.
Right.
It might even be different voices. I don't know if they actually win, the one before I die and all that.
Sal, do you have any sense? It's just not a new thing. They've been this level of favorite, although last year was not like this. Last year, the Jets were getting all the love in the summer, and were even, I think, when kickoff came for Week 1, the Jets were the favorite to win the division
by a smidge,
by a bit, but still. So it wasn't like the Bills were this, unquestioned crown that they were wearing. How do you think? Has anybody really talked about like what the end game here is and what it's like living through a pro sports existence where all you are expected to do is win it all, which is the hardest thing to do. But that's the only thing that's going to satisfy everyone, and that's a really tough place. That's a tough way to live, I think. I mean, it's great. It's a compliment, but it is, I mean, there's no wiggle room, really.
No, I think you've probably gotten answers to that, Bulldog. If I think back to things that Brandon Beane has kind of said or Sean McDermott has said recently over the last couple of years, like they know that, right? They know, but what their message always is you're going to keep, and I think Beane actually addressed this offseason, which is you're still going to keep swinging until you knock the door down. Like that's what it's the only thing you can do. It's the only thing you can do is keep swinging until you knock the door down. Yes, there is pressure there, but it's the pressure you live with. It's the pressure you created. It's the pressure you want, and it's the pressure you're kind of comfortable with now. I think being the team that, let's be honest, the quarterback who is the best who hasn't won it, the team who's been the best team that hasn't won it, and not just in football, maybe throughout sports this goes with the Buffalo Bills right now. Sure, there's a certain stigma to that and some sort of pressure that you want to pop the balloon and finally have that off your shoulders. There's no doubt. But I'll go back to what I said. No matter what they do this year, they'll have that same expectation next year. I don't want to sound like Mike Tomlin, right? He has created the saying, but it is the standard now. That's what it is. It's the standard. The standard is for this team to be okay. Remember, I just said a while ago, the one thing they haven't done is get to or win a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. The one thing they haven't done on the way is get the 1 seed.
Right.
That's still a goal that they have not achieved in this era. They have not been the 1 seed. And what the 1 seed gets you is that week off, and then you play one game in order to host the AFC Championship game the next week. And I know that happened last year. I know last year they were at home, and they went on the road. They've been to the AFC Championship game. They have not done that. They have not been to that point. And that is the one thing that they are still swinging for.
I mean, last year was especially cruel in that respect. Because really, you couldn't ask for anything more from them.
But it was never really a race.
But it was okay. Like it was. They never caught up. Like they're sitting there at beating Kansas City at 11-2 or something, and they're still back, and Kansas City just through these kind of lucky, unimpressive wins against terrible teams sometimes just would not lose a game. And it's not hard. I mean, maybe I'd be biased. It's not hard to imagine the Bills getting there had they been at home. I know they lost the year before, but, last year's team was better. Like, it's not hard at all to imagine that. It's hard to imagine them beating Philadelphia, maybe. I also wouldn't imagine them getting blown out. The Chiefs were just not that good. So that's been especially cruel. The Chiefs go on the road the year before and run through the Bills and the Ravens, and just, I know it's a lot. Earlier on this same kind of subject, like thinking about the Bills and the division games, I asked Bulldog, like, would you take 5-1 against the AFC East? And he's kind of like, you kind of have to, maybe.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't take 4-2. Baltimore might take 4-2 in its division with what the Bengals are, and they always lose one game to Pittsburgh. And Kansas City, I don't think Kansas City would take it in the same way, but that division's tough. I mean, that's 3 playoff teams, and now the Raiders have done a lot. So I think 4-2 in the AFC West isn't bad for Kansas City this year. So last year was especially cruel in that 1 seed context. This year, maybe, it breaks right.
I think if you're looking at Kansas City, there is a element of, okay, you think the Chiefs could kind of drop back a little bit because of, just the Chiefs and attrition and things like that. And we've seen a little bit of that, even though it didn't come to fruition last year. They were in all those close games and they wound up winning in the end. But I do think that's the difference between the two divisions and the two teams. Even if you feel that way about the Bills, even if someone goes, okay, attrition, they've had some changes, the difference is there's not teams on the rise that could contend.
Who's going to get them? Right.
Like in the West, right? Again, maybe New England can be better, but how better? The Broncos have a really good roster, guys. The Broncos have a really good roster. They have a really good offensive line. They have a lights-out defense. They have a quarterback, a rookie that looked really good last year. That's a team that can put together, maybe a season that, okay, we're talking about them challenging here. I don't know, but they're going to be kind of thought of that way at times, probably. And then you have the Chargers, and there's Justin Herbert, and the guy that everyone has anointed as the guy that just needs to show that he's so capable because we know he's so capable. And you have Jim Harbaugh coaching him. So I'm going to talk about the Raiders. I don't think they're that team right there. There's some people Pete Carroll's back. We'll see. But I do think the Chargers and Broncos represent so much more different in that division than what the Bills have anything else representing against them in the East.
Boy, it's got to be a really massive year for Herbert. Second year with that coach, all the attention, him being sort of maybe prematurely placed on the tier with Allen and Jackson and Mahomes. Like I was doing that when talking about really it was the AFC West. It's going to get so strong. He's got these quarterbacks. And he just has not really come through. And, he's not going anywhere. I don't mean, they're going to move on if it doesn't go well, but eventually people are just going to start relegating him to he's just whatever top of the second tier is the best he's going to be, maybe, unless he breaks through. And it's high time.
It is high time.
Yeah, and I also don't know what their offense is and how they kind of operate in this 2025 world of NFL football, right? I mean, they still, Jim Harbaugh kind of operates and acts like a guy that still wants to play like he's coaching a Big Ten team in the 1970s, right? I know he just came from Michigan, but yeah, they let Justin Herbert throw a little bit, getting the offensive lineman and running the ball. And, I kind of get confused a little bit about who exactly they are because you do have this quarterback that I think has so much talent, not playing for the Cincinnati Bengals as they want to do. And he's not playing, for a quarterback, a coach that I think wants to drop him back and put him in shotgun and just spread the ball around and throw it all over the field all the time.
Yeah, it's been alluded to here. The AFC West is 4 Hall of Fame coaches.
Right.
It's amazing.
It's going to be 4 Hall of Fame
all
coaches.
4 coaches have either won a Super Bowl or a national championship.
That's right.
In that division.
Harbaugh has a Super Bowl loss and a national championship. Carroll has both wins in both. If the USC thing wasn't rebuked or whatever, I'm not sure about that one. And Peyton, great career. Sean McDermott, if he gets one, then we'd talk about the Hall of Fame. I think he might have to get one.
Me too.
Or, a coach can...
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
A coach can go somewhere else and kind of rebuild it, like in the Parcells mode. Parcells has rings. But, a guy that goes to a different program someday and brings it from the ashes, get a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, but Marv Levy went to 4. It's different, but he never won one. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Right?
But that's extraordinary to do that. Like that is probably the thing. If you go to 4 Super Bowls, period, lose them all, you probably got to look at it. 4 in a row is like, all right, this guy's in the Hall of Fame. Like, this is easy, right? So I think you're going to want to get one if you want to really, I think, seriously consider McDermott.
I won't say Marv is undeserving, but it's a little bit generous. Like it's not a kind of a career history where you're like, oh, obviously, like a Parcells or somebody like that. I don't think of him as undeserving, but kind of a weak era, and the 4 in a row piece made that special.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm saying. Without it, I don't know.
Without it, well,
yeah,
it's debatable. It's debatable. All right, Sal. So tomorrow is what, and after tomorrow is what? Vacation.
So, yeah, tomorrow is a practice at 11 a.m. Now, they've gone from 12:30 to 2:30 each day. Do they go 11 to 1 tomorrow? I'm not quite sure. Maybe they do. Maybe they get the guys out a little bit early. And I believe, as of right now, we may be hearing from Brandon Beane tomorrow just to kind of wrap up, mini camp and look ahead to the next 5-6 weeks. And from there, I asked Sean McDermott yesterday, what's your message to the guys when they leave here this week? Because we're not going to talk to him. And he said everybody kind of learns a little bit differently throughout their career how they have to take care of their bodies, and the best teacher is really your teammate, and people have been through it before. And you got veterans who have a routine, he said. They've just had a routine. They know what to do. You have those guys who have been in a few years and maybe still figuring out their routine, but they kind of get a handle on what they like, what they don't like. And then you have young guys who this is their first time. And, okay, what do I do now? Do I go, just full throttle and get ready for get ready for camp and go, I'm going to be in the best shape, and then burn yourself out and hopefully not get injured, obviously, anything like that? Or do you just take a time off and go, hey, I'm kind of laying on the beach for 5 weeks because I'll be ready when I'm ready? I think you have to figure that out, no doubt about it. You want to make good decisions. You hear Andrew Brandt, who, on Twitter, he always says it's the worst time of year for any executive or head coach because you get a phone call at night because something happens, your players aren't with you, and where are they? What are they doing? Things like that. But what happens is, guys, they'll break. And then let's remember, the NFL calendar is a little early this year, right? Everything, because of the actual calendar we live by, everything kind of happens a little bit earlier this year. So last year, July 24th was the first training camp practice. If you take the exact number of days in the CBA to the game and back it up to practice when it's allowed, I think we're looking at maybe the 23rd this year. So that would be just about, 5-6 weeks, whatever. But it looks like that'll be right around the report date for training camp. Or I'm sorry, first practice report date would be the day before.
McDermott's message condensed: sun's out, bums out. Let's go. We'll see you back here in 5 weeks. All right, Sal, we'll talk tomorrow. Thank you.
You got it, guys. Thanks a lot.